All right, I call this meeting order. This is a regular meeting of the North Augusta Board of Zoning Appeals, August 6th, 2024. We'll start with a roll call.
London Smith here.
Kathy Stallworth.
Kevin Skaggs.
Bill Burkhalter.
We have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is approval of the last meeting's minutes from the June 4th meeting. I found one typo myself, I think.
Tommy, on page 2 of 15, right up there at the top. Third line down. Second word's supposed to be is instead of in. That's so picky, I hate to even bring it up.
That's my statement right
Third
there.
line down, saying that the variance is to allow like that, right?
But I tell you, as long as these minutes were as thorough as they were an excellent job.
It certainly
done
was.
on them. I was very impressed.
Also, on page 4 at the top, in the first 3 paragraphs, is the applicant Chris Verdery or Bird? Verdery.
Verdery. It's got a Y on it,
Yeah, I
doesn't
think.
it?
I don't know, it's spelled like that throughout.
Yes, and I'm checking.
I thought
Check
it
and make
had a
sure you
Y
got the
on it.
name right. Are there any other corrections to be made? Have a motion approved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
And all in favor of the changes made, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, minutes are approved as amended. All right, next item is confirmation of the agenda. Any changes to be made here?
None by staff.
Okay, we'll consider the agenda is confirmed. So the first item, get my act together here, is ZV 24-009, an appeal by Jason Thacker and Carly, is it Buchan? For variance from the side setbacks of ordinance 2002-23 for Hammond's Ferry planned development. The request affects approximately 0.13 acres zone planned development located at 33 Crystal Lake Drive, EPN 007-13-17-07-003. And now I will open the public hearing for this particular variance. You want to introduce or tee us up?
Mr. Chairman, like you said, this is 33 Crystal Lake Drive. It's for a side yard setback variance. You see on the screen here, the parcel. You can see it's a irregularly shaped parcel to some degree. It's in the Hammond's Ferry neighborhood. And the request for the applicants is for a variance of 11.5 inches. And if you add that 11.5 inches up, it'll be 2 square feet in gross floor area or gross area, and it'll be encroaching into the required 5-foot side setback requirement for a garage with an overhead living space. In the packet, there's a letter from Wallace and Diane Castles, the adjoining property owner, supporting the application. If the variance is granted, staff would recommend 2 conditions. The variance, if granted, would apply only to this property, would not apply to any future development on the site should this plan not be developed, and the variance would require that the building footprint be constructed as conceptually shown in the exhibits.
Would the applicant want to speak? Everything you say?
Go ahead. Yes.
I'm supposed to swear you in.
All right. Great. Thanks.
Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, self you got.
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you.
State your name and address, please.
All right, Jason Thacker. I live with my wife, Carly Buchanan, at 33 Crystal Lake Drive in North Augusta. And we put a few additional photos. Able to,
I don't have those. I don't.
okay, that's okay. We, like, let's see. So. And the reason we're bringing this petition is, as stated before, because of the irregular shape of the lot and the adjoining lot. So the lot kind of tapers in a bit. So we only need the variance right at the end where we're constructing near the alleyway. Yeah, if there's no questions, I don't really have much else to say. But
I just have one question. And it's you're building a double garage, and I guess it's just a standard double garage. It's not oversized or anything like that.
That's correct, yes. And one reason we didn't want to compromise the width of the ground. We need something that's going to be ADA accessible. So she needs a walker and sometimes a wheelchair. So.
Okay. You need to copy that, or do you? All right. Any other
I
questions?
have a question about the height. Is it going to be, like as tall as your house or what? You're building a garage apartment, is that it? Living space above it?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
You need to come up and speak into the microphone so it can get recorded.
And I have something that shows the elevation.
Better tell truth, whole truth, nothing but truth. So everybody, state your name, please.
John Barnhart, J-Mar Builders, and it is the same height as the house. I built the house and designed the garage, and it's the same. It's the same construction style and height and material.
Any other questions?
That's, this is the elevation. I'm not sure we have that one in there. We may have.
That should be enclosed in your
It
packet.
wasn't in here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
I see it.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else from the public want to speak for or against this project? All right. If not, I'll close the public hearing on this particular application. All right, so got to read a little bit here. Per North Augusta Development Code 17.5.1, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall hear and decide appeals for variances for the requirements of Article 4 zoning districts established and Article 9 signs when strict application of the regulations would result in unnecessary hardship. When practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships would result from carrying out the strict letter of this chapter, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall have the power to vary or modify any of the regulations or provisions of this chapter relating to the use, construction, or alteration of buildings or structures or the use of land. So the spirit of the chapter shall be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done. Variance may be granted in an individual case of unnecessary hardships. The Board of Zoning Appeals makes and explains in writing all the following. And there are 10 requirements. 1, an unnecessary hardship exists. 2, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. 3, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. 4, because of the conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. 5, the authorization of a variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation of potential or the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late-night activity. Number 6, in the approval of the applications for variance from the provisions of Article 13 signs, regulating the size, height, and appearance or location of a sign, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall also find that no alternative language solution that complies with the provisions of Article 13 is available and would provide adequate visibility, recognition, and understanding. That particular one doesn't apply to this one, but I read it because we have other applications following this involves a sign. Number 7, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance in variance, the effect of which would be A, to allow establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land, C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. 9, the fact that the property may be utilized more profitably should a variance be granted shall not be considered grounds for a variance. And 10, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building structure or use as the board may consider advisable to promote the public health, safety, or general welfare. Based on these findings, the Board of Zoning Appeals may approve the conditions or deny the request. And we have to meet all 10. So if we find one we don't meet, the process kind of stops there. So I'll go ahead and get started with item 1. An unnecessary hardship exists. The applicant states the request is for a side yard encroachment of 2 square feet, total space requested, which allows to increase the parking area in the garage by a total depth of 4 feet. This space would be very nice to make in the garage a usable space, whereas the factors age in place and handicap requirements are ever required. The staff notes that the existing house takes up the majority of the width of the lot, with the acreage of the lot being approximately 0.13 acres. So I guess the way I saw it is the shape of the property creates a hardship.
I agree with
I
that.
think that's right.
We're all good with that one?
Yes.
Okay, we're good with number 1. Number 2, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The applicant states that the property was adversely affected in the original subdivision of the property due to a required power transformer requiring the adjoining lot shape to be configured in such a way to allow access to the garage around the transformer. The adjoining lot neighbors have submitted a letter stating that their approval of the variance, also. And staff notes that the current lot configuration of the adjacent lot in the rear, that's not, yeah, okay, I'll just read it as it's read. Staff notes that the current lot configuration of the adjacent lot in the rear near the garage. So they just note that. Okay.
It's not a complete sentence, Tommy.
So anyway, do we have any issues with question 2? No problem with that.
Well, I don't have any. I mean, there's not much you can do about that transformer.
You okay?
Yeah, I don't have any questions
I'm
for that.
good with number 2. All right, number 3. The conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Applicant states that while Hammond's Ferry is unique in virtually every lot, this lot is exceptionally challenging due to the severe triangular shape of the rear yard. This long angle is why the request only involves 2 square feet of encroachment due to the nature of the rear yard shape. Staff notes that the majority of surrounding property owners have a driveway area that leads to parking in the rear of their lot, and that this specific combination is not possible on this particular lot.
I have a question there. I don't understand why. I mean, you do park in the back, don't you? Do you park in the back? I don't understand what the staff note means.
Well, you'd be unable to do this garage like this without the variance. I believe that's what Ms. Reese was referring to when she wrote the staff report.
But as it
Just a-
states here,
Mhm.
it sounds like it's not possible to go back there at all, but it
Gotcha.
is.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Can't expand. You can't build a garage.
right.
So we good with item 3? Good with 3. All right. Number 4, because of the conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. And the applicant states that the 2 square feet allowance for a garage is sufficient size to allow today's SUV vehicles to utilize the garage. It also gives the ability for future wheelchair access if so required. Staff notes that the required configuration allows the property owner to continue parking their vehicles in the existing parking area and without adding impervious surface area to the lot. What do you think about this one?
I think it's good.
I'm okay with it because
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
um,
sorry.
it's unfortunate, but just the reality of a small lot like that. It's so close. As Kathy said, you can park there, but if you want to build a garage, if you want it to be where somebody can come in with handicapped access out of the garage, which is more practical than just out in the yard, you've got to have that little smidgen of space in order to do it. So I think
I'm
that
okay with that.
I'm okay with it. What, London?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the fact that they're sort of sizing it to today's SUVs means that going forward, we can, if they ever do choose to move, they can sell it. And I think the property value stays the same. So that's great.
So we're good with 4. Item 5, the authorization of variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation of potential for the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late-night activity. The applicant states that the variance does not affect any adjoining property negatively, and the staff notes that the proposed use does not impact the health or safety of the public. And I'll just add to it, we do have a letter from the neighbor.
Yeah.
And they're good with it. So we good with 5?
Uh-huh.
Good.
Yes.
Item 6 is not applicable because that's related to signs. Number 7, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance, the effect of which would be A, to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district, and this residential uses and associated accessory uses are permitted in the planned development zoning district within the stated regulatory limits. B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land, and this variance does not extend a physically non-conforming use of land. And C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map, and this application does not propose a change to the zoning district boundaries. So we're good with 7.
None of those are applicable here.
That's right. All right, 8. If the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. The applicant states, see the explanations above that we just read and the attached plat showing the tiny sliver of requested encroachment. Staff notes that the requested use is a continuation of established use. The lot shape does not allow parking in the current area to be covered without encroachment into the required setbacks.
That's all true. And it's not theirs, they didn't impose it on themselves.
Right, it's not self-imposed. Y'all good with 8?
no problem.
All right, we're good with 8. Number 9, the fact that the property may be utilized more profitably should a variance be granted should not be considered a grounds for variance. The staff recognizes that should the variance be granted, the property would not operate profitably. No problem.
Okay.
I'm okay with number 9. Okay, London?
Yeah.
Any intent in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building, structure, or use that the board may consider advisable to promote the public health, safety, or general welfare. Staff recommends approval of this variance with the following recommendations. 1, the variance, if granted, will apply only to this property and will not apply to any future development on the site should this plan not be developed. And 2, the variance would require the building footprint be constructed as conceptually shown in the exhibits. Those are 2 you read, right? Yes. Okay. Are there any others we need to add? Are we okay with these 2? We need to add any other ones.
So what we're saying here is if they don't do it and then sell the house, somebody's gonna have to come back to us for a variance. Isn't that what that's saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. I mean, the condition
Or they can't use that for a different.
for a different purpose.
Correct.
We good with these 2?
Yeah.
Ms. Stallworth, it's our, and nothing toward these applicants, but it's our typical language that we put in there to prevent a bait and switch.
To prevent, exactly.
Okay, we found an affirmative for all 10. Since our motion maker is not here, I'll read it unless somebody wants to try to do it. Okay. Based on the findings previously discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZB 24-009, Thacker Buchanan Garage, a request by Jason Thacker for variance pursuant to ordinance 2002-23, side setbacks of the North Augusta Development Code to reduce the side setback be granted with the following conditions, and we have 2. This variance will apply only to this property and will not apply to any future development on the site should this plan not be developed. Number 2, the variance would require that the building footprint be constructed as conceptually shown in the exhibits. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All approved, raise your hand. It's unanimous. The variance is approved. Good luck to you. All right. Next item is a special request for a special exception. ZB 24-004, request by WSM Ventures LLC for a special exception to allow a motor vehicle repair and service center in the GC General Commercial Zoning District. The request affects approximately 0.53 acres at 532 East Martintown Road, PPN 007-16-04-002 and 10139 Atomic Road, PPN 007-16-104-003. Currently zoned GC General Commercial and R10 Single Family Medium Lot Residential Zoning Districts. And I'll open the public hearing for this particular application and tee us up.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As you'll notice, there are 2 parcels for this project. There's this one that is zoned general commercial, and this one that was previously zoned R10 but has now been rezoned to general commercial by City Council so that these 2 lots can be combined for this project. So in essence, you're looking at special exception for the whole square box. Sometimes the actions of council and preparing the staff reports don't quite jive. But as of today, that is now zoned general commercial. So this would be allowed use or conditional use there on that parcel. They are requesting a Take 5 oil change. It's a special exception for a motor vehicle service and repair business in the general commercial zoning district. Atomic Road and Martintown Road. And like I said, City Council is familiar with the project that is slated to go there and approved rezoning based on that. There are also 3 conditions that's required in the conditional use, in addition to the special exception that they're requesting a waiver from. And that is that all service and repair operations be conducted not less than 50 feet from residential property line. If you measure property line to property line, it's adjacent to the residential. This next parcel here is zoned residential, and so are these. And then no doors or windows shall be facing adjoining residential districts. Well, there may be, the traffic pattern you'll see on the site plan goes in here and out there, so there's rear garage doors there. And I don't know if there's any man doors on the side. And then no junk or salvage vehicles shall be kept on the premises. I don't think that's going to be an issue for them as far as their business model. They have no plans to do that. So that is the application. You can see we still haven't called up. Excuse me, those are used as residential, but they are zoned general commercial. This gives you what their operation looks like. Rather clean. And then this is the conceptual of what it's going to look like. And with the entrance here, they would go through and then out here. You notice this curb cut here is a right in, right out only. And it is located as far from the intersection as it can be for traffic mitigation purposes. And the same here with this entrance. This is a full service entrance here. They've got the proposed detention pond here and buffering here. That moves it away from this residential area to these parking spaces here. So I think this fairly covers their business model, and they are here if you have any questions.
So the three conditions you read to us, they want as part of this special exception. They want a waiver from those?
One and two they'll need.
Okay.
The third one they won't. I'll let them explain their request.
I see. I'm sorry. I see. There's lots obviously surrounding it. Current homes. Have any of those adjoining properties? Have you talked to any of the owners of those?
Actually, we have not heard anything from these. These, I believe, are rentals. This one here is a rental, and as luck should have it, you will notice all of your other staff reports are done by Ms. Reese. You'll notice this staff report is by Cully Baker. That is because Ms. Reese lives right there.
Oh.
Okay.
And we are not going to have that conflict.
Lives
She
on
is
lot
aware of it.
Lot 3.
Yes, ma'am. She is aware of it, and she came to the planning commission and asked some questions about the rezoning and the plans, and got, as anybody can. Because she's kind of been walled off in the office, so there's not a conflict, and she got the answers she was looking for.
I don't know if we can ask this, but what was her perception at the planning meeting? That she seemed like she got the questions answered. Did she seem like she liked the outcome?
In conversations with her, I think she understands that if I was speaking for her, and to be candidly honest, I think she would obviously prefer nothing be there. However, she understands also that there could be something a lot more impactful there. So I don't think she's opposed to it. It is certainly better, in her viewpoint, than a 24-hour convenience store or a fast service restaurant with drive-through speakers talking through the night, or a car wash, or we can go on and on about things that could impact her more. And she's fully, being in the profession, she's fully aware of that and respects that.
You're here tonight, so
She's not.
okay.
Well, the applicant, you want any questions?
I was just going to ask Tommy if my understanding is that even though the rezoning is taking place, this for a motor vehicle repair shop, you have to have that by special exception.
Correct. Yes.
So that's why it's still before us. The
That's why
zoning change didn't really alter that need.
the zoning change provided its ability to come before y'all.
Well, I just have a question of you. If it's general commercial, where, where would a place like this be without a special exception?
Probably, and without checking the book, probably thoroughfare commercial. But this, it gives the city, gives the board an opportunity, because motor vehicle repairs, that's so wide open. And it could be so, depending on the specific operations of that motor vehicle repair, it could be in the general commercial injurious, to adjacent properties and stuff. This one, quite candidly, I think it's what you look for in a general commercial zoning district. But there may be some others that's a larger scale that may not fit, like a record yard, junkyard, that type thing.
So, I mean, we've got Jiffy Lube down the street. So how did they get there? Did they come before board? I don't remember. them
Who is
coming.
this?
Jiffy Lube.
Jiffy Lube.
That was before Tommy.
Well,
but-
probably not before me, but I don't remember them coming for a special exception.
It may not have been a special exception whenever they came in. It may. Remember, we adopted the new code in December, and I don't remember offhand if it was a special exception in the previous code or not. If it was,
I think they've been there before that code.
then yeah, that they are grandfathered.
Okay.
But I think you've had some other ones come through here as well for oil changes.
Well, that one up on exit 5.
But anyway,
Okay.
Does the applicant have anybody here? Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but truth without so help you God.
I do.
Thanks, state your name, please.
David Berry, 1028 Glendale Circle, Spartanburg, South Carolina.
My old neighborhood. Lived on Woodman Road growing up.
Yeah, so we've, as Tommy mentioned, seeking a special exception for the distance to the residential area of 50 feet, as well as the doors that we just orientation. I think anyway, the doors would be facing some residential. We do not keep any cars overnight, so the salvage or junk is not part of our operations. Everybody is customers stay in their car during the service. I think in terms of the design, we've really put in a privacy fence, some heavy screening around the residential to try to block as much as possible with the neighboring residential.
What other maintenance services are you providing other than oil changes?
Wiper blades, engine air filters, cabin air filters, adding air to tires is the extent of, and we do coolant exchanges, which is
Rotate tires and.
we don't rotate tires. We have a small air compressor that periodically runs as needed for our used oil pump, as well as adding air to tires, but it's maybe 6 times a day it turns on for 2 minutes, and it's enclosed in a room, so it's pretty difficult to hear outside the building.
Compressor's not outside, it's inside.
It's everything is within the confines of the building.
You mentioned the privacy fence. Did I read something about trees being planted too?
Yeah, so we went ahead and did the landscaping there with the trees, really trying to focus the size of the trees along the perimeter, in addition to the privacy fence. So I think per the code, the landscaping meets the requirement for the type buffer yard, and the fence was an additional kind of a wooden privacy fence to try to provide more screening.
And last, what kind of operating hours do you anticipate?
We are currently 7 to 8 Monday to Friday, 8 to 6 on Saturday, and 9 to 5 on Sunday.
You own the one, I know there's one in Augusta. Is that part of the ones that you?
Yes, so we own and operate 4 currently in Augusta, 1 in Aiken, and then than we have some in Asheville, North Carolina, as well as Northeast Tennessee.
Augusta one's well run.
Thank you.
You got any questions? No.
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody from the public want to, speak for against this project? Okay. I'll close the public hearing on this particular application. Like the last one, I got a good bit of reading to do here. Since this is a special section, this is a little bit different from what you just heard. The North Augusta section, Development Code section 8.18.8.4 defines the criteria the board shall use in hearing and deciding upon requests for special exception. The section reads, 1, the use complies with all regulations, conditions, and standards of this chapter unless approved as a major waiver. Number 2, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining properties or the use is a public necessity. 3, the use is of a size, shape, and character suited for the proposed site. 4, the location and character of the use, if developed accordingly to the information that's submitted and approved, will be compatible with existing uses adjacent to and near the property and will not adversely affect the development of the neighborhood or the district in which the use is proposed. 5, the use will not create traffic impacts or parking issues that will endanger public safety or contribute to the traffic congestion or unacceptable adversely impact nearby properties when compared with uses permitted by right in the same zoning district. 6, the use is consistent with existing and planned pedestrian and vehicular circulation adjacent to and near the property. 7, the use will not be hazardous, detrimental, or disturbing to surrounding land uses due to noise, light, glare, smoke, odor, fumes, water pollution, obstruction of airflow on adjoining properties, or other general nuisances. 8, the use will be adequately served by essential public services and facilities and will not require additional public expense. 9, the uses will not adversely affect any site or feature of historical, cultural, or natural or scenic importance. 10, that the proposed use will not conflict with but will further the objectives of the City of North Augusta Comprehensive Plan. And 11, the use will not materially endanger the public health, safety, and welfare if located, designed, and proposed to be operated according to the information submitted. A denial by the Board of Zoning Appeals based exclusively on this language shall include explicit findings regarding the way in which granting this special exception would endanger public health, safety, and welfare. And the Board of Zoning Appeals shall approve the applications, approve the application with specified modifications, or disapprove the application. If approved, the Board of Zoning Appeals may instruct the planning and development director to issue such permit contingent on the specified modifications. Opposed and is disapproved, the applicant shall be notified in writing of the action of disapproved application with the reasons therefore. And like the last one, we have to answer in the affirmative for all 11 of these. So, get started here. All right, item 1 was the use complies with all regulations, conditions, and standards of this chapter unless approved as a major waiver. The applicant states that they are not seeking a major waiver and the use complies with all regulations, conditions, and standards of this chapter. Staff notes that the applicant is seeking some allowances in the conditions of the request at the end of the staff analysis.
No question.
No
It's
question.
allowed, right?
Yeah. Number 2, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining properties or the use is of public necessity. The applicant states that the use is in keeping with the other commercial uses that will be proposed around this location. Operation is more in line with the retail uses than heavy automotive repair. Customers saying that stay in the vehicle during service and no vehicles are left at the location for service. The surrounding area is an area of transition between the Martintown Road commercial corridor and the existing residential neighborhood known as Breckenridge Heights and Green Forest Acres. You've heard about the operating hours and the major
I
type
think
of
his,
work is done, so I think it's.
I think his buffers are gonna be good, and his landscape is gonna be good, and, you know, he's not operating in the middle of the night or
Right.
anything like that.
I'm good with number 2. You good, London?
Good, yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. All right, number 3, the use is of a size, shape, and character suited for the proposed site. Applicant states a rectangular layout of the site works well for the use, building, and parking needs. And staff notes that the applicant has included a proposed site layout with this application.
I'm okay with that one.
I'm good. Okay with it. You good? Number 4, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the information is submitted and approved, will be compatible with existing uses adjacent to and near the property and will not adversely affect the development of the neighborhood or the district in which the use is proposed. The applicant states there are commercial uses adjacent to and in close proximity to the site that are compatible with the proposed use. Precision Auto Care is located diagonally across East Marktown Road. Sprint Foods is directly across the street, and a self-service car wash is across Atomic Road. Staff notes that the surrounding properties consist of a mix of commercial and retail and residential uses. Commercial uses are generally located to the north and east of the site. Residential uses are generally located to the west and south of the site. That's particular. I don't have heavy issues there.
No issue.
Good? Good. All right, we're good with number 4. Number 5, the use will not create traffic impacts or parking issues that will endanger public safety or contribute to traffic congestions or unacceptable adversely impact nearby properties when compared with uses permitted by right in the same zoning district. The applicant states the commercial use is a low traffic generator with approximately 40 customer visits per day spread across the 8 to 13 hours of operation. Peak traffic needs to be between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. with less than 6 vehicles per hour. Staff notes that the site is located at the intersection of major connector roads that connect many neighborhoods and commercial areas in the city of North Augusta to surrounding jurisdictions. And
I don't have a problem with that.
the curb cuts and the ins and outs about the best they can do with layout too.
Right.
I'm good with 5.
Now, I had to do, Tommy, I want to make sure on the Bartontown Road, entrance, it's one only, you can't make a left turn into there.
Correct.
Atomic
This
Road.
is
It's right in and right out.
correct. See the little triangle here?
Yes.
That's that diamond, that triangle is a concrete barrier. Now, can it be done? Sure, it could be done, but it's designed for right in, right out.
Good. Number 6, the use is consistent with existing and planned pedestrian and vehicle circulation adjacent to and near the property. The applicant states that the use will not impact any existing pedestrian and or vehicle circulation given minimum trips per day and existing sidewalks and access points remain in place. Staff notes that area is prime for development as a major travel corridor between Aiken and Augusta along Atomic Road and towards the Highway 1 interchange at the terminus of East Marktown Road. South Carolina DOT improved the Atomic Road intersection and implemented new pedestrian sidewalks in recent years. Staff recognizes there is potential to expand public transportation opportunities by improving the existing bus stop for the Best Friends Express with shelters, lighting, and trash receptacles at this intersection. And pedestrian connections between the new development and existing bus stops should be included with the site plan. Now, did we see anything in there? Or where that would be?
As far as the bus stop, that is regulated by the Best Friends Express.
So,
The trash receptacles and lighting, that will be provided on site by the,
But is there a place on his plan here for that?
no, not that I'm aware.
Would they be able to utilize any of the space, I guess, when they do decide to put a bus stop in? Or?
Bus stops are, yeah, Bus stops are allowed to be in the right of way. So the bus stops can go out here on the sidewalk.
As it stands, they can use that.
Yes.
So there's space there for a bus stop. You don't have to
Yes,
necessarily show it on his plan, but it's gotta have space there for one. Is that right?
Yes, and those can be located in the street right of way.
Okay.
Do we know if that's enough space? for
I
the
do
bus
not.
stop?
Yeah. If you have a sidewalk, I would think you would have.
Yeah.
So we good with 6? Good. All right. 7, the use will not be hazardous, detrimental, or disturbing to surrounding land uses due to noise, light, glare, smoke, odor, fumes, water pollution, obstruction of air flow on adjoining properties, or other general nuisances. The applicant states that the use will not be hazardous, detrimental, or disturbing to surrounding uses. The company will ensure lighting design uses shields and minimum lighting onto neighboring properties. They state that they have been effective in coming up with similar designs at other locations. Equipment and materials are stored inside the building with the exception of the dumpster enclosure. All oil and used oil is kept within the confines of the building and stored in above-ground storage tanks. The shallow pit design of the location is intended to provide adequate storage for 150% of the oil, new and used, kept on site if the tank were to leak. Noise and lighting will be subject to the standards of the development code. This is staff notes. Noise and lighting will be subject to standards of the development code and municipal code as applicable. There is an opportunity to plant street trees and existing rights of way where none currently exist in this area. Expansion of the tree canopy is possible on the vacant lot with addition of parking lot landscape and general site landscaping. Any issues with?
I'm trying to look at this, the storage tanks. Are they, in those circles with at the, near lot 3, are those storage tanks?
Can you come down? Yeah.
The bottom right picture at the back, that's where the new oil is stored up against the wall in the building.
The used oil?
Oh. So that's the new oil. The used oil, you can see a man door here right below the American flag. And in there's two steel.
So that's within the building?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I don't see noise being a problem based on the types of service they're
No,
providing. And we talked about screening with the fence and possible trees, so I'm okay with 7. Anybody else?
I'm okay with 7.
Good? Good with it. All right, number 8, the use will be adequately served by essential public services and facilities and will not require additional public expense. The use will not require any additional public services or facilities. Staff notes that water and sanitary sewer are available to the site. Any infrastructure improvements must be provided by the developer. I'm okay with 8. All right, good. Number 9, the uses will not adversely affect any site or feature of historical, culture, natural, or scenic importance. The applicant states that the use will not affect any site or feature of historical, cultural, natural, or scenic importance. The previous use was believed to be a liquor store that was demolished in 2013. Staff notes staff is not aware of any significant historical, cultural, natural, or scenic landmarks in the facility. I'm good with 9.
I'm not aware of any either.
Good. Number 10, the proposed use will not conflict with, but will further the objectives of the City of North Augusta Comprehensive Plan. The applicant states the proposed development will be in keeping with the economic development goals and the comprehensive plan to redevelop a former site that has been sitting vacant for over 10 years. Additionally, the business will bring an additional 8 to 10 jobs in the area. Staff notes the comprehensive plan future land use map shows this parcel as residential single family, not anymore, right? However, it's adjacent to areas indicated as mixed use on the map. The vision for Marktown Road listed in the comprehensive plan is to create new mixed-use development along major corridors in place for failing or aging commercial areas while improving connectivity between mixed-use centers and surrounding neighborhoods with new side streets. The proposed development is relatively close to the Bluegrass Place planned development and will likely serve residents in the area. Infield development supports goal 5.2, ensure the financial sustainability of North Augusta by encouraging compact growth to ensure North Augusta's tax base can support city services. Developing the city and areas already served by the city will maintain service cost. Are we good with number 10? I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. And number 11. Use will not materially endanger the public health, safety, and welfare if located, designed, and proposed to be operated according to the information submitted. A denial by the Board of Zoning Appeals based exclusively on this language ought to include explicit findings regarding the way in which granting this special exception would endanger public health, safety, and welfare. After states the use will comply with this statement, and you've got to. I'm good with
Yeah,
controlling is all.
right.
Um,
I do have one question for Ms. Paradise. Do we need to add the thing about the bus stop as a condition?
No, sir. I would not. I wouldn't.
So we're good with all 11. We do have 2 conditions, and I'll read those. So we're saying that the third one is not going to be an issue. So these are only 2 conditions. Is that right, Tommy?
Yes, sir.
2. 2's a problem. They want to. So need a waiver to those. Do we need to read those?
Yes. If you. Yes.
So this is included in the special exception. All service and repair operations shall be conducted not less than 50 feet from any residential property line. The applicant has provided a site plan with distances for the building to adjacent properties. Work will be conducted within the confines of the building. They will, what you're saying, we're saying that they will be less than 50 feet.
From property line to property line, yes. From the property line to the actual where the business is going on, it would be more than 50 feet.
So that would be good.
Yes, sir.
Number 2, no doors or windows shall face adjoining residential districts. After the states the layout of the building needs to accommodate the vehicle flow of traffic around the site and requires the building to be oriented to face East Marktown Road. Doors will face East Marktown Road as well as to the rear of the site, which is adjacent to residential property. The applicant is proposing additional screening and a privacy fence to minimize visibility to the parcel. I'll go ahead and read number 3. No junk or salvage vehicles shall be kept on the premises. This applicant states no vehicles are kept on site and all work is done while the customer is in the vehicle. No junk, salvage, or storage of vehicles will be placed on the property. So these 3 conditions, do they need part of the motion?
I would. Number 2, I would. Yes. That,
Number 2?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think in reading 1, it's a little unclear to me, just the distance to the property line of where the work's done in the vehicle, or within the building, but I just don't know, should we
And I agree. That would make it clear if you included both 1 and 2 in your motion to allow those. As a condition of the special exception, you allow 1 and 2. That's different from the conditional use.
So like number 1, we say shall be conducted less than 50 feet from it. Or can be, may be conducted.
Correct.
May be conducted less than 50 feet.
And then these doors that are facing lot 3,
Yes, ma'am.
that's where you actually enter the bays to.
Yes,
Those
that
are
is,
the bay doors.
those are the bay doors.
So then number 2 would say doors or windows may face adjoining residential districts.
Because there will be a personnel door facing lot 1 and 2, and then the bay doors facing 3.
Okay, I think I got it.
Got it.
And there's nothing special with number 3.
And I would include in that number 2 as conceptually shown in the exhibit.
Okay, so we've answered in the affirmative to all 11. We have 2 conditions, and so I will read the motion since our motion members. Based on the findings previously discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZE 24-004, Take 5 oil change, a request by WSM Ventures LLC for special exception pursuant to section 18.8 and table 5.1 of the North Augusta Development Code for a special exception be granted with the following conditions. There were 2. Number 1, all service and repair operations may be conducted less than 50 feet from any residential property line. And number 2, doors or windows may face adjoining residential districts as conceptually shown in the exhibit. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
So moved. Second.
Let Ms. Kathy have it. All 3 of it. Everybody seconded. All right, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, please. It's unanimous. Special exception is approved. Good luck.
Did 1 and 2 have been excluded entirely? If we were to do that, I mean, like, could you exclude those entirely, I guess? Like, it says with the following conditions, like, if we just said may and not.
I did say may.
Yeah, so if we took those out completely, would that have just done 3 and not exclude 1 and 2? See what I'm saying?
Well, they need the special
They
permission.
would need 1 and 2, okay.
Okay. Now, agenda item, the next one is, this is the sign. This is ZB 24-010, an appeal by Spring Grove Missionary Baptist Church for a variance from Article 9, signs, Table 9-2, signs permitted by district, and 9.6.5.10, and additional requirements by sign type, electronic reader boards. General requirements of the North Augusta Development Code to allow an electronic reader board in a residential zoning district. The request affects a portion of approximately 5.66 acres, zone R7, small lot, single-family residential, located at 1677 Warmrath Road, PBN number 012-17-02-020. I'll open up the public hearing for this application. Set us up here.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is for Spring Grove Missionary Baptist Church at 1677 Walmworth Road. They're requesting an electronic message center to be allowed for the church. Church is located in R7 zoning district. However, this one is contiguous to a general commercial district. The EMCs are not allowed, or electronic message centers are not allowed in the R7 and only allowed in the office commercial, general commercial, thoroughfare commercial, and industrial districts. If variance is approved on this application, staff would suggest certain conditions. One is that it would apply only to the property and the sign details is submitted. And should the sign need to be replaced, it should meet all the requirements of the sign code at the time of the request of the variance, if applicable. Limiting the hours of operation of the sign so that the reader board is not operated between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And the sign would be expected to follow all the regulated colors, refresh, and other regulations by the sign code for the electronic message center. And other suggestions that y'all may have.
The existing sign that's there now, that is a changeable copy sign. Is that what that's called?
Correct.
And that is, with the new code, that is not allowed. Is that right?
New code, that would be correct. It would not be allowed. They would need a variance to get signed.
So they could not, if they wanted to replace this sign, they could not replace it with one just like what they got now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not without a variance.
Yes, that's correct. So they are basically, to replace the sign and comply with the code, they would be losing capability of messaging from that sign.
Run that way.
Message center from that sign, from the sign itself. They lose that capability.
I'm not tracking. I'm sorry.
So they got a message board there now.
Right.
So if they replace the sign with one that complies with the code, they would lose that capability of that sign.
Correct. Yes.
So they're losing the capability.
Yes. If they complied with the sign.
Make
Yes.
sure I have my thoughts right. And there's no other option within the code that allows them messaging capability. You got the changeable copy and you got message electronic reader boards, and there's no other.
Correct. You have your traditional reader board with letters. Then you have electronic message.
Yeah, those only two. Okay. And this area is not considered as not part of like a housing subdivision, is it?
This would be along a main corridor.
That's what I thought. Okay, that's the way I looked at it too. I'm sorry, that's about all my questions for Tommy. Any questions, anybody? Tommy?
I just want to clarify for me. I didn't realize you're saying that that sign, because you can change the wording on it, on the light background part, is not acceptable now. You can't use that now. Or is it because of the size of the part that you can change.
Correct. The ordinance would not allow a sign that size in the new
But it
ordinance.
would allow a manually changeable reader board.
It
but
would
not
be
this
so
size.
small. It would be so small it wouldn't be
Couldn't
effective.
read it.
I don't think it would allow that.
And
If you wanted to replace that sign, you could not do it with a changeable copy sign.
Because it would be too small.
But, well, and I don't think the table allows it. You go to the table, see what's allowed in the R7, those message boards aren't allowed.
it may not be. I hadn't looked. Do you want me to look that up or?
I looked it up.
Okay.
If everybody else wants you to see it.
No. If you say it so, I'm good. I hadn't had a reason to look that one up.
So in R7,
Mhm.
the changeable copy and an electronic read board, neither one of them are allowed in R7.
Based on what you're saying, that would be correct.
The way I read the table. Okay. Any more questions for Tommy?
I have one question, I guess, was just hardship. I mean, when we define that, I know we're going to go into the questionings and all that stuff, but from the city's perspective, I mean, I don't know if this is, I don't know if we covered this with, I guess, with our group or you, Tommy, but is not having the reader board or like a way to communicate considered a hardship, I guess, with other? I mean, I'm trying to.
That is a decision for the board to
Okay.
make, what is and what is not a
Okay.
hardship.
All right.
Any other questions for Tommy?
No.
How about the applicant? Anybody want to speak for the applicant in the church? I swear you in, swear to tell truth, whole truth, nothing but truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
And state your name, please, and address.
Ronald Patterson, 106 Main Street North, New Orleans, South Carolina.
Thank you.
Okay.
What can you tell us about this?
About the sign,
Yeah.
all I can tell you is it'll be a big upgrade from what we have there now. And this sign, one of the great things about it is you can control it from home. You don't have to come out here and lift up the band the cover. Because a lot of people in the church nowadays is much older and it's more difficult for them to do it. But at home, anyone can do it. You just send it out there and just type in what you want to say and tell it to go to the message board, and it'll display whatever you want to say. And the other thing about it is you can control all of it as far as with how fast it moves, how slow it moves. You make it stay still, and you can control what time you want it to come on, what time you want it to go off. I remember what all we need to say about it. And you can tell it how bright to be, how dim to be. So we were just trying to make sure we covered everything to make sure that there's no problem with it.
Does it have an automatic sensor?
Yes.
So that it will brighten and dim depending on. So it'll brighten and dim depending on how it gets dark or light.
Yes. Okay, let me make sure I explain this. The sensor, it controls when it gets dark. That's just the name, where the name part of it come on at. Whenever it gets dark, when it can sense it's getting dark, it'll come on. And whenever it senses it's getting day, it'll go off.
How about on the electronic message center? Will that go dimmer at night and brighter in the day?
It stays the same. It's just that you can tell it how dim to be, and you can tell it how light to be.
Now, our ordinance does require that sensor on there. It automatically dims and brightens.
Okay. I have to read it to make sure everything, but it's supposed to cover all that. I just have to make sure I don't remember everything about that. But I believe that's in it for sure. I checked with the people that build that sign. They told me everything that it needs to meet the codes normally, it is in there. Everything that we need for sure. And they said we shouldn't have a problem with it being approved.
Just send them the North Augusta code, make sure. Y'all talking apples and apples.
Okay. Yes. You want me to say something else? Okay. Now, I asked them specifically about that. They told me that it covers anything we needed to do. You can run it. And they mentioned a sensor to me, but at the same time, some of that I just took what he said and didn't go no further with some of that. But I knew that we can tell it how bright to be all the time, how dim to be. You know, I knew that based on what I was planning on is just making sure that whatever the city wanted, however dim or bright it wanted, I wanted to make sure if you wanted it dim, that we can put it however dim we need it. And I asked them that, and they said, "Oh yeah, there's no problem." And they told me it has some controllers on it where you just control it to whatever you want it to be. Now, what you're stating, it probably does that also. It's just that I didn't ask him that specifically. But he did say there's no problem with that. He said they made sure all that's covered.
They'll be looking for all those requirements when you bring them design to approve, I'm sure.
Yes. Can I ask a couple other questions?
Mhm.
Just now you're the sign contract.
Yes,
We go back a ways.
yes.
The applicant here, are they aware of the restrictions that the city has on how they can use the sign? And I say that by the sign can flash and scroll, and animate, and do a lot of things that our ordinance will not allow it to do. It has to stay static,
Yes.
and then for at least 10 seconds, and then move to another message.
Yes.
Are they aware of that and good with that?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure.
Yes. They're definitely familiar with that. We went over that.
Are you here speaking for the church too, or is there somebody?
Yes. Well, we have some here, but I was designated to speak for the church if they
Okay.
needed anything.
So,
Said.
just a curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
do you know, does the church have like other forms of communication, like a website? Because I looked for one, I couldn't see one. Do they have
I
a
don't
church
know.
website?
I don't know about the website.
Okay, I couldn't find one, so that's why I'm asking. How about like a Facebook page? Okay, how about like a Facebook page for communicating?
I don't believe so,
couldn't
because
find
most of
one.
them is elderly, but most of them don't operate and deal with any of that type of
So
stuff.
when I'm hearing, or when I'm suspect is there's limited forms of communication, this sign is probably important to them.
Very important.
Okay.
Very important.
All right, that's what
Yes.
that's
I
what
mean, it's very important.
Since you're speaking for the church and just for the record itself, because I know the questions that are coming, what can you elaborate more on the hardship of, I guess, elderly changing out the lettering and can you just for the
Okay.
record?
Yes. What it is, this is kind of the old way of doing things. And normally, you have to take those letters out there and you tote them out there. You have to lift this banner cover. And it's just risky for how older ladies, and most of them are ladies, that come out there and open that up. They can either slip and fall. It's just much safer if they didn't have to do that at all. But that's one of the things with that.
I didn't think about the safety aspect of it.
And even when it gets cold and it's slippery, and it rains, you can easily slip and fall. With this digital board, we don't have any of that to worry about at all.
It's on a slant too.
Excuse me?
It looks like from this picture, it's on a slant.
It's not level.
It's not level.
yes.
I mean, the ground is not level. It slants down.
Yes.
The sign is level, but the ground slants down.
Yes, that banner cover. See, the banner, when you lift it up, there's nothing there to hold it up. The bodies is normally holding it. If you ain't careful, you
Your
could get hurt.
your head's holding it up.
Thank you.
I think those are my questions. I'm good. You got any more questions? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is anybody else want to speak for or against this project from the public? Okay. We'll close the public hearing on this particular application, and I won't reread all the requirements that I read on the first application. There were 10 of them. Is that right? There were 10 of them, and then we'll include the one on the sign. So anyway, we'll jump right into the consideration phase. I can tell you, I went through and I
You
scribbled
sure did.
notes all over this thing, and I'm aware of, signs can be, tough to evaluate. So anyway, I went back and forth on this one. So anyway, I made up my mind. This is what this is what I'm gonna go with. So anyway, number one, an unnecessary hardship exists. The applicant states that due to restrictions being placed on the electronic reader board in residential districts, the church is unable to communicate with the members of the congregation and the surrounding public. The church is also unable to provide spiritual guidance to the community of North Augusta. Staff notes that their current sign in this location is a changeable copy sign, reader board, that is a sign designated so that letters or numbers attached to the sign can be periodically changed to a different message. You may have different opinions on this. My takeaway was that they are losing, if they replace a sign and follow the code, they will be losing the capability to put messages
Communication.
or communication on that board. And to me, that was a hardship. And you brought in the safety. You heard about the safety aspect. That's kind of a hardship too.
Adds to it, yeah.
That adds to it. So I'm good with number one. So, I don't know about the rest of them.
Yeah, and I think this is an essential way the church communicates with people in the public, and with its membership. So I agree, you need to have a sign.
I think just with seems like the broad definition of hardship itself, I think this fits it in my book, and I'm with it as well. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we're good with number one. Number two, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The applicant states that Spring Grove is located at 1677 Walmrath Road and is surrounded by large trees that restrict the ability to safely view and read the sign while driving. The applicant states that if a citizen is driving by toward Euclid Avenue, the driver will more than likely pass the church before getting a chance to read the sign due to the tree coverage provided by the trees on the neighboring parcel. The driver will be distracted too long trying to locate and read the current sign. Staff notes that residential properties are directly across from the church property. Staff also notes that the subject property has tree coverage surrounding the property and over 100 feet between the current sign and the property line on each side. My takeaway is, again, the extraordinary and exceptional conditions. This residential property has a church on it. It has a current changeable copy sign, unlike the rest of the properties in the area. And also, I think the fact that the adjacent lot is a general commercial lot where a electronic reader board sign is allowed.
Right.
It's right next to it. So,
And I
listen,
appreciate the large trees.
yes. So I didn't really follow the problem with the trees, but I think, again, the adjacent property and what they have now, the current sign is different from the other properties, I think is significant. So I don't know what the rest of it is.
I'm okay with that one.
I'm all right with it.
I'm okay with number two. We're good with number two. Number three, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. The applicant states that the nearest property to the church are homes and other small businesses. Unlike businesses and other organizations, the church is a nonprofit and cater to the interest of the public. Staff notes that residential properties are directly across from the church property which do not have signage on their properties. And again, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Again, the adjacent property is a general commercial zone property that would allow electronic reading. So
Right, and the houses would not have one anyway.
right. So I'm good with three.
Yeah.
Good. Under?
Yeah.
4, because of the conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And the applicant states that the development code is prohibiting the ability of the church to extend their opening doors to the community and communicate effectively in more modern day practices. Staff notes that signage is regulated by the zoning district and not their particular use. And I guess what I read into this, you're basically complying with the code would prohibit them from or restrict them in communicating via the sign, the way I read it. So I'm good with.
I'm okay with that one.
Okay with 4. You okay? Yeah. Item 5, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation or potential for creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late night activity. The applicant states that the church has communicated with the neighboring homes and have presented a petition for the recommendation of approval from them. The church will do whatever is necessary to make the sign to be a nice addition to the community and not a nuisance. The applicant states that the brightness will not be an issue for the neighbors or to be a vision restriction for drivers. The applicant states that the sign will transition the messages slow and there will not be any blinking, flashing, or traveling messages. The applicant states that they agree to have the sign turned off by a decent time. Staff notes that the electronic reader board creates a potential for nighttime light pollution, and the majority of residents are located in the direct view of the sign location on the church property. The contiguous R7 property to the north has trees near the right-of-way that obscure visibility of the current sign. Staff notes that the GC zone property to the south is currently vacant with tree and shrub overgrowth that could potentially obscure the visibility of the sign. As far as brightness at night, we can have conditions about turning it off at a certain time. I will also want to note that they had petitions in the package
I read those,
of the
right.
neighbors. And I think most of them were directly across the street, the houses across the street. There may have been a few others. Is that right? That were okay with putting the sign there. So I'm okay with 5. But you guys?
I'm okay.
You good?
Yeah, I read that, saw those, that petition.
Okay. Item 6, in the approval of an application for variance for the provisions of Article 9 signs regulating the size, height, appearance, or location of a sign, the Board of Zoning Appeals should also find that no alternative signage solution that complies with the provision of Article 9 is available and will provide adequate visibility, recognition, and understanding. Staff notes that electronic reader board signs are allowed in certain zoning districts, such as office commercial, general commercial, thoroughfare commercial, industrial, and public districts, and have to meet the criteria in 9.6.5.10.A through I. I'm okay with this. The changeable copy sign is not allowed, so there's no alternative that they could go to that provides the messaging. So,
I have a question. Does the size of it meet our requirements?
Yes. This will be all right because you're modifying the existing sign.
no, we're replacing it, right?
That's a big modification.
It's one of those broad definitions.
That's right, a modification. I'm okay with that one.
I'm too. The Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance to the effect of which would be A, to allow the establishment of use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district. Generally, signs are allowed in R7, small lots, single-family residential zoning district. B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land. The variance does not extend physically non-conforming use of land. Or C, to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. This application does not propose a change to the zoning district boundaries. So we're good with 7.
Yeah.
Number 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. Staff notes that electronic read boards are permitted for churches within office commercial, general commercial, thoroughfare commercial, and industrial districts, and that the hardship is not imposed by the use or the specific configuration of the lot itself. The hardship is not self-imposed, it's being created by the loss of capability of a message.
And
Permissible.
actually, just for the record, most of those signs were not there when the church was built.
Right.
It could be some members may not have access to Facebook or other means, and this would be the way they would communicate, so
Right.
it wouldn't be self-imposed.
So I'm good with 8.
Yeah.
Everybody good with 8? Number 9, the fact that the property may be utilized more properly should variance be granted shall not be considered for grounds for variance. The staff recognizes that the property is operated as a church and the request is not based on profitability of the land. I'm good with that. Everybody good? All right, and 10, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building structure or use as the board may consider advisable to promote the public health, safety, or general welfare. If this variance is approved, the Board of Zoning Appeals may consider these conditions recommended by staff. And there are two here. This variance, if granted, will apply only to this property, and the sign details as submitted. Should the sign need to be replaced, it should meet the requirements of the sign code in place at the time, or request another variance if applicable. Number two, the second one is staff recommends limiting the hours of operation of the sign so that the reader board is not operated between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The sign would be expected to follow the regulated colors, refresh, and other regulations of the sign code. Any limitations to hours of operation should be specified by the board as part of the case order. Then the staff has suggested, open to suggestions for other conditions.
Are
Go ahead.
Well, are those the hours we put on other signs?
Yes and no.
Yeah,
Well,
I was
the-
gonna say
Those are the ones that we have, that the board has put on generally.
At Hammond Hills?
Hammond Hills was 8 o'clock, OLP was 9 o'clock. So that's what I was gonna say. I don't know
And-
which one would fit.
I believe the other one, some of the others was 10 o'clock.
Obviously. But
I think the junior or middle school was, 10.
Yeah.
so I don't know what your feeling was. I was gonna suggest being consistent with OLP, the one we just did.
Yeah,
That
that's
was,
what I was-
that was a school and a
Right,
church.
right.
I agree.
So that was 9 o'clock. Would 9 o'clock be good? Suit the church? Basically turning the sign off at 9? Ten would fit better.
There are, I mean, even though they're residential, you know, on the other side, there is one across from the church, but most of it's on down the road and it's sort of a thoroughfare. It doesn't bother me that we leave it open until 10. So that's just my thought.
So the church would be, it would be better for the church to have it at 10? Okay,
Oh,
okay, so 10 o'clock. You okay with that, London?
Yeah, I'm fine. I like the consistency, but
Yeah. There's a reason if the church needs it.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, we'll do 10 then, okay? All good? All right, so we've answered in affirmative for all 10. So I'll read the motion. Based on the findings previously discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZV 24-010 Spring Grove Missionary Baptist Church sign, a request by Ronald Patterson for variance pursuant to section, or for the allowance of an electronic reader board. Excuse me. Whoops, I didn't have it. Oh, there we go. Excuse me, I messed that up. Request by Ronald Patterson for variance pursuant to section, to Article 9, signs, section 9.6 and 9.6.5.10 allows signs, electronic read boards, and requirements of the North Augusta Development Code for an allowance of electronic reader board be granted with the following conditions, and we have the two. This variance will apply only to this property, and the sign details as submitted. Should the sign need to be replaced, it should meet the requirements of the sign code in place at the sign, or request another variance if possible. Number two, staff recommends limiting hours of operation of the sign so that the reader board will not operate between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The sign would be expected to follow all the regulated colors, refresh, and other regulations of the sign code. Any limitations to hours of operation should be specified by the board as part of the case order.
Can I make, it's not a substitute motion, because that's not a motion yet. Just, I would add in your language, after you said Ronald Patterson, but on behalf of Spring Grove Missionary Baptist Church. Other than that, I'll second it.
So we got a second with a slight amendment. Any other discussion?
no.
All right. All in favor, raise your hand. Variance is unanimously approved. Congratulations. Good luck with your sign. Okay, the last one. Okay. All right, last one is ZB 24-011, an appeal by GKE Properties LLC for variance from 4.12.7.2 general commercial use and intensity impervious surface ratio of the North Augusta Development Code for the current impervious surface area. The request affects approximately 5.5 acres, zone GC general commercial, located at 871 Edgefield Road, TPN number 011-01-01-001. I will open the public hearing for this application. So, Mr. Tommy, can you set us up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is where Harbin Lumber Company is located, and the applicant wishes to pave the existing gravel parking area. The impervious surface area from the paving will be 89% or 4.886 acres, while only 70% impervious surface is allowed in the general commercial district. The applicant is slightly changing the parking area from 4.902 acres to 4.886 acres. This shows you a site plan with the shaded area of what would be paved. All of this right now, most of this is pretty much crush and run and gravel. Of course, some that does allow some seepage of the water. Whereas when we asphalt that or concrete it, that's not going to happen. So staff does have a concern of what's going to happen with the surface water here. We've recommended two conditions if granted, that it only apply to the property and will not apply to any future development on site. And also if the variance was allowed, that we would recommend to the board that there be a future submittal of plans by a licensed engineer to address the stormwater runoff, and that the water runoff comply with current regulations for stormwater. This is an existing non-conforming project that has been there for some time.
It's non-conforming now.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know whether you know this or not, when Adams first built this facility, was it in the city then, or has it been put in the city since then? The reason I'm asking is because if it was not in the city, that there was no code imperviousness aspect to it, unless the county had one.
Right, and I don't know. When I look at the history, it says it was formerly Adams Supply with a name change to Harbin Lumber in 2017. They applied for a minor site plan in 2008. That was approved. And in 2021, they applied for a lumber shed that was approved. And that is the history that I've got on it.
But they're actually reducing, it's reducing the impervious area.
That, what I read implied that
When I first read it, I thought they were actually going to have more impervious area.
Right.
That's the way I read this, but and I'm looking at item 4, through it.
And the applicant can explain it better, but all of this right now is parking, driveway area, and with gravel, and they're reducing that by a small amount. But this is, the concern we have, or I have, is, where's the water going? When you make this watertight, where's it going to go?
So the application, it says the applicant is proposing a plan to reduce the current impervious area from slightly above 89% to slightly below 89%. So
Correct.
that, what you're saying is that gravel is considered impervious,
Correct.
but you're saying it really is kind of.
Well, it's gravel. So you're going to get some seepage through there, unlike if you concrete it or asphalt it.
As far as I guess it's recognized as far as the calculation goes, it's considered impervious.
Correct.
I thought gravel was water soaks through it.
Well, I did with this. I'm just reading here though. That's like it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, we do not recognize a gravel parking lot as being pervious.
So what? We don't know what it is now. Then, if we don't think it's 89%, it could be 70% or less.
I think it's 89% now, and it will be 89% when they're done.
So what are we worried about then? If what they're doing is, what they have is not impervious, and they're
Well,
going for impervious.
Now they are concreting or putting asphalt in.
Right.
And that's not going to let it go, the soil go through, the water go through.
Water goes through.
Well, it seems like this, if you look at number 4, I mean, I know we're not there yet, but if you look at it, it sounds like they'd be reducing it from current 89% to like a lot of, I mean, like 40% or something. Erosion, just a tiny reduction.
It's a reduction from,
Maybe that's somewhere else.
it's from 4.902 acres to 4.886 acres.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yep.
More questions, Tommy? How about the applicant? Swear to tell truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Bill Quarter, 103 Virgil Wall Road, Edgefield, South Carolina. I'm the project engineer. I'm the designated agent for the project.
Help us.
What's that?
Help us, please.
I think I can land this plane. So the reason that we are here tonight is that the code does not allow imperviousness in this district above 70%. The existing site is at roughly 89%. So the site today does not conform to code. And so we actually submitted a site plan previously for these improvements. And one of the comments that came back on the site plan was the maximum imperviousness in this district is 70%, and you exceed that. So we spoke with staff. In our original plan, we were slightly increasing the imperviousness above what it is today. We go on a rabbit trail and talk about imperviousness. So from an engineering standpoint, land surface is either pervious or it's impervious. It's in one of two categories. Now, when you throw it in those categories, you can have pervious area like a forest, and that will let more water soak in than grass will, but they're both pervious. And then you have impervious like asphalt, concrete, and gravel or crusher run, and there's a different degree of that, but they're all considered impervious. So the area that you see shaded in the dark gray on the plan is currently gravel. The area you see shaded in light gray, the front parking lot, in one lane, that's currently asphalt. So the situation we have right now, this is really a maintenance issue, and I know Stormwater was concerned about this. We talked with them. that's really 75% of the purpose of this project. The majority of the work yard behind the fence is gravel. There's a little bit of asphalt, but it's mostly gravel. And every now and then the gravel disappears. It just goes somewhere, and they have to bring out more gravel. And so when they contacted us to work on the site plan, they had some questions about that, about maintenance, and about their stormwater pond. Well, what we found was that their drainage system was filled with gravel. No water could flow through the drainage system. What little could was pushing gravel and debris into their stormwater pond. And so the stormwater pond was silted in, and it was a weedy mess. So we put together a site plan, which is basically maintenance to get the area cleaned up and paved so that they don't have gravel filling in the drainage system, and then getting into the stormwater pond, and then leaving the stormwater pond and going downstream. Downstream of this site is a watershed that's on the list of waters for TMDL, meaning that it needs to be cleaner than it is according to the state. And so our plan for the stormwater pond, number one, we're going to clean it out. It needs to be maintained. Stormwater asked about that, and that was part of the original plan. But we're also enlarging it, and that gets back to the difference between imperviousness. Gravel will let a little bit of water soak in, not much. Asphalt will let less soak in. So to make up for that difference, as a part of this project, the stormwater pond that they have now will be enlarged, and we've done the calculations and submitted those with our first submittal to show how we're going to manage the stormwater once the site is redeveloped. But just to bring it back full circle, the reason we're here tonight is not because we're going from 89 to slightly less than that. It's because the site today is above 70, and once we do the work, it's still going to be above 70. We work to get it slightly less, so we're not making it any worse than it is today. We're making it a little bit better, but both conditions require a variance to bring it into compliance. I'm sure that you realize it would be difficult for Harbin Lumber to go out there and take out 20% of what's being used today, and so that's why we're here for the variance, and essentially that's the hardship that they're already utilizing about 89% of the site with the impervious area, and it would be hard for them to continue their operation by reducing it.
Is the plan's part of what you said you're concerned, you want to add to it, condition?
I was not made aware of those about the stormwater, existing pond, and the cleaning out and enlargement of that pond. That is the exact condition that I'm asking to be put on there is what he's discussing now.
Okay, so you shouldn't have any issue with doing that.
That's right.
Part of your scope.
Right.
I think we're on the same sheet of music.
So all the water is going into the same ponds that was intended to.
Well, I don't know that it's going into the pond now because the pipes are full of gravel.
Okay, well,
it's
what it
probably
was
running off
intended
into it's probably running off into places where it shouldn't.
Okay.
But once this project is done, some of the pipes have been cleaned out. Some of them can't be cleaned out, and they're too small. So part of this project is going to be replacing the old pipes with new, larger pipes and getting everything into that stormwater pond so that it goes where it's supposed to go. Okay. And it's detained. We slow it down before it leaves the site.
And that is, from the planning department, that's what we're looking for, is for it to be better and not be worse. And he's dead on it.
There are no I'm sorry. There are no residential areas that this stormwater affects.
Well, eventually, the water that leaves the site ends up, at some point downstream. I don't know, the path from here to the Savannah River, what it passes through,
but not a nearby neighborhood, because there have been huge problems in that area with stormwater runoff.
Right. The properties that are directly adjacent are primarily vacant. Right. The water drains into the Bobby Jones right of way. And the DOT has seen our hydrology study, and they've already agreed to allowing us to discharge our water into their right of way. They check that as well. We have to prove to them that the amount of water that's going in there before we do our project is equal to or it's reduced afterwards. And so if, let's just say there's a house a half a mile downstream, when this project is done and the stormwater pond is renovated, then there will be less water going downstream and it will be cleaner. I didn't mention this because it's not part of the variance, but in addition to installing or renovating and enlarging the detention pond, we're going to have something called a water quality treatment unit, where all of the water before it goes to the pond goes through basically a fancy filter that will filter out trash and debris and keep that from getting into the pond in the first place. And so that's an extra, thing that they don't have now that would improve the stormwater.
That's not considered water treatment, is it? Okay.
It's a filtration.
Right.
It's basically a filtration, and it's actually a requirement of DHEC, who is now operating under a different name, and the City of North Augusta Stormwater Department. Because there are water quality problems downstream, we had to do something more than just a detention pond. We had to do something to clean the water up, and that's the purpose of this water quality unit.
Question with that too. There's still gonna be gravel, obviously, at the facility, or is it all? I think it's
At the end of this, there will essentially be no gravel,
No gravel.
except for if you look up on the top left, there's a
Right.
little gravel parking area where some of the employees park.
Yeah.
We're not proposing to pave that.
Would any of that gravel end up in the same like piping and storm?
It all drains to the same area, but that's a pretty small area, and it's compacted because they drive and park on it a
Okay.
lot.
I was just trying to see if we're going to have the same issue down the road, but it doesn't seem like we are.
We shouldn't have the issue here. The pipes are larger, so if
Yeah.
gravel gets into the pipe, it's not going to clog the pipe. It's going to move down, and then it's going to go to the water quality unit. And the water quality unit has several compartments. There's one compartment that catches styrofoam cups and paper bags and straws and the big stuff. And then it's a cyclone is the way the water goes through there, and it causes all the sediment to drop out in the bottom. So if there were gravel that got in the drainage system, it would end up in the water quality unit, and that gets cleaned out every 12 to 18 months. They bring a pumper truck and sink a long tube down in there and suck it out. So it really can't get past the water quality unit into the pond once the water quality unit's installed.
That's great.
So that would be a fail safe, if they did have some gravel that washed out, it would be collected in the water quality unit.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the audience? Who wants to speak out for or against it? You good? All right. I'll close this part of the public hearing for this application. And you already heard the requirements for variances, so I won't reread all that. So I'll jump right into item 1. An unnecessary hardship exists. The applicant states that the driveways and other impervious areas which are to be paved have been used by Harbor Lumber Company for many years. Satellite imagery shows that the same impervious footprint has existed since at least 2007, with the main building and parking area being the same as existing for many years prior. Reduction of the existing parking area and lumberyard service is not feasible for the business to continue its current operations. Staff notes that the previous development code adopted in 2008 states that the impervious surface ratio was 0.7 or 70% for GC general commercial. 2023 development code states that the impervious surface ratio is 0.7 or 70%. Staff notes that the subject property was formerly known as Adams Supply, which opened for business in 2008. So, I guess the unnecessary hardship is got an existing condition that.
Well, they need the same amount of room.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't have a real problem. Number 1. That'd be good. All right, so good with 1. Number two, the extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The applicant states that the nature of the business requires large areas for truck movement and parking in the lumber yard, and this gravel lumber yard area has been used for many years and is required for safe movement of materials throughout the lumber yard. Staff notes that the subject property is mostly asphalt and gravel parking areas surrounded by the building with sparse vegetation.
Tell you, those trucks care, I mean, what they're saying here is true. It's constantly got big lumber trucks, other trucks coming in, just, they do a business, I mean, they do a job on the
Gravel.
gravel and everything else, so.
I think I'm okay with that one.
And what they're doing is making it better. The whole project. I'm okay with number two. Number three, the conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. The applicant states that Harbin Lumber Company is unique in that it's an existing operation which has had the same amount of site imperviousness for many years. The applicant states that the other nearby properties do not require the same percentage of impervious area, and many were developed after the 70% rule was created. Staff notes that surrounding properties are mostly vacant with abundant vegetation on the adjacent property to the north and rear of the subject property. The adjacent property to the south of the subject property is mostly vacant with a manufactured home office at the front of the property. I would say it does. It's a lumber yard. I mean, it's
Right.
lumber company. So
It's the only lumber company.
yeah, I'm good with three. Y'all good? Yeah. Number four. Because of the conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And the applicant states that the percentage of imperviousness areas cannot be reduced and still have the business able to operate on the site. Strict enforcement of the development code would be unreasonable in this case since the imperviousness is related to an existing operation. Staff notes that the applicant proposed on the conceptual plan to reduce the impervious area from the current approximate percentage of 89%, so 4.902 acres, to slightly less than 89%, 4.886 acres. So I'm good with four.
Yeah.
Good. No issues there. Number five, the authorization of variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation or potential for the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late night activity. The applicant states that since the site imperviousness will not increase the existing conditions, there will be no detriment to adjacent properties or to the public good. The site will be greatly improved in many ways by the proposed changes. There will be no longer dirt, dust, gravel tracked into nearby roads and into the stormwater infrastructure. Site aesthetics will also be greatly improved. The changes will be beneficial both aesthetically and practically to all nearby properties and to the general public. Staff notes there is some light pollution and noise pollution on the subject property for it is a hardware lumber supply store. I agree that it'll be improved with the stormwater going where it's supposed to go.
And reducing dust.
Yes. So
Spurious gravel all over the place.
I'm good with five.
Well, it's fine with me, but I hate asphalt. Just make that clear, okay? For the record.
For the record. All right, 6 is not applicable because that's signs. Number 7, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance with effect of which would be to allow establishment of use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district. The hardware lumber supply store are allowed in commercial zoning districts within the state regulatory limits. B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land. This variance does not extend a physically non-conforming use of land. Or C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. And this application does not propose a change to the zoning district boundaries, so we're good with 7. Number 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. The The applicant states that the hardship is not self-imposed, and all the gravel was there to begin with. We good with number 8? We good with 8? All right, number 9, the fact that property may be utilized more properly should a variance be granted shall not be considered grounds for a variance. Staff recognizes that the property operates in a lumber hardware store and the variance for reduction in impervious area will not be utilized for profitability. They're kind of a maintenance of stormwater.
Well, he did state that he couldn't continue to operate like he did, though, if he wasn't paid, so, you know, I always have a trouble with that one,
Yeah.
always. But that's okay.
We good with 9? All right, we good with 9. 10, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building, structure, or uses that the board may consider advisable to promote public health, safety, or general welfare. Staff recommends approval of this application with the following conditions. Yes, 2. I think this is the 2 you stated. This variance, if granted, will apply only to this property and will not apply to any of the future development on the site should this plan be developed. And 2, the variance will require the future submittal of plans address stormwater runoff.
He's already addressed that.
Well, you haven't
Or
seen
is
it
in the
yet.
process.
It will be
Right.
included.
That would be included with the submittal.
Right.
So we're good with those conditions. So we have answered in the affirmative for all 10 items, so I will read the motion. Based on the findings previously discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZB 24-011, Harbin Lumber Company Site Improvements, a request by GKE Properties LLC for a variance pursuant to section 4.12.7.2 General Commercial Use and Intensity Impervious Surface Ratio of the North Augusta Development Code for an increased impervious surface ratio be granted with the following conditions. 2 conditions. Number 1, this variance will apply only to this property and will not apply to any future development on the site should this plan be developed. And number 2, this variance will require that future submittal of plans address stormwater runoff. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Any other further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, so the variance is approved. We done. Any other things we need to discuss?